One day, the sky will be completely empty. Not a star, not a galaxy, just darkness. This audiobook invites you on a melancholic journey to the farthest imaginable future, a universe where expansion has erased everything from the firmament, and the last star has already died. What will remain when the cosmos falls silent? A true story written by a physicist, filled with a silent beauty that you won't be able to forget. When we look at the sky, we are not just observing points of light, we are contemplating the vast universe. Stars have been beacons of hope and symbols of dreams for entire generations. However, the idea of a darkened sky raises unsettling questions. What would it mean to live in a world where darkness reigns instead of light? Stars are not just celestial bodies, they are part of our cultural, scientific, and emotional identity. Every star we see is a reminder of the greatness of the cosmos and our own existence within it. However, if the sky were to darken, we would lose more than just bright points. Astronomy, the science that helps us understand our place in the universe, would suffer a devastating blow. But do we truly understand the magnitude of this loss? The absence of stars could lead us to question our own history and our search for meaning in life. Stars, in their splendor, have also inspired myths and legends. Since ancient times, entire civilizations have looked up, seeking answers to their deepest questions. Without stars, our narratives would fade, and the stories that have shaped our cultures would be lost in darkness. What would happen to our legends if we had no constellations to tell? Human culture is intrinsically linked to the observation of the sky, and its disappearance could leave us orphaned from our traditions. The sky also acts as a mirror of our reality. Often we seek comfort in its vastness. But what would happen if it no longer existed? A starless night could become a symbol of hopelessness, and the silence of the cosmos could resonate in our hearts. Without the light that guides our dreams, we would be forced to find new ways to navigate life, both physically and emotionally. Speaking of navigation, the sky has been an essential tool for explorers throughout history. Stars have guided sailors and oriented travelers in unknown lands. Without them, how would we find our way in a world that tends to become increasingly confusing? The lack of natural references could lead us to an even greater dependence on technology, and that could have unexpected consequences. Light pollution is already affecting our ability to observe the night sky. Did you know that many people in cities have never seen the Milky Way due to artificial lights? Imagine a future where we not only cannot see the Milky Way, but also cannot see any stars. The disconnection from the universe could lead us to a more empty life, more focused on the mundane and less on the awe-inspiring. Science also plays a fundamental role in our understanding of stars. As we explore the life cycle of these celestial bodies, we realize that, although they shine brightly, they also have a limited time. What would happen if those lights went out sooner than expected? Science tells us that stars are born, live and die. But the idea of a sky without stars is a reminder of the ephemeral nature of our very existence. In this context, the expansion of the universe adds another layer of complexity. Galaxies are moving away from each other, which means that, in the distant future, we might see fewer and fewer stars. How would our perception of the cosmos change if, over time, the sky became darker? Stars are witnesses to the history of the universe, and their disappearance could mean that we also lose the story of our own origin. Moreover, climate change is already affecting our environment. Changes in the climate not only impact life on Earth, but could also influence our ability to observe the sky. If global warming continues, we could see a future where nights become an even rarer spectacle. Are we ready to lose our connection to the night sky due to the impact of our own actions? The search for life on other planets would also be affected. If the sky were empty, what implications would that have for our understanding of life in the universe? Without stars to illuminate the way, space exploration could become more symbolic than ever. Astrobiology, which seeks answers about the existence of other forms of life, would be hindered by a sky that no longer offers answers. In summary, the possibility of a sky without stars invites us to reflect on our place in the cosmos and the importance of preserving our environment. The lack of light in the sky would not only mean the loss of a visual spectacle, it would be a loss of connection, history, and meaning. But what can we do to prevent this from happening? The answer to that question could be the key to ensuring that future generations can look up and continue dreaming. The story of the sky has been an exciting journey that has accompanied humanity throughout the centuries. From the first men who looked up at the heavens to contemporary scientists exploring the far reaches of the universe, the sky has been a mirror reflecting our dreams, fears, and curiosities. Have you ever wondered how ancient civilizations interpreted the stars that shone in the night? For them, each star was a story, a god, or even a destiny. In Egypt, the pyramids were aligned with the constellations, reflecting a deep connection between the earth and the sky. Mesopotamian civilizations also attributed special meaning to the stars. They created a complex system of astrology that sought to predict events on Earth based on celestial movements. Each constellation told a story, and the gods seemed to guide them from above. This desire to understand the sky shows us that, from the beginning, humanity has felt an intimate connection with that vast and mysterious dark ocean. But what happened as societies evolved? During the Middle Ages, the sky continued to be a subject of fascination, but also of fear. The church dominated thought, and often astronomy was seen as a threat to established beliefs. However, thinkers like Copernicus and Galileo began to challenge those ideas. By observing the sky through a telescope, Galileo discovered moons orbiting Jupiter, forever altering our understanding of the universe. The question that arises is, how did people feel upon discovering they were not the center of the cosmos? The arrival of the Age of Enlightenment brought a new approach. The sky began to be seen not just as a place of myths and legends, but as a field of scientific study. New theories about gravity, light, and matter began to flourish. Human curiosity managed to unravel the secrets of the cosmos. Yet, despite these advances, the sky remained a place of wonder and mystery. What else does the universe hide from us? As we moved into the 19th and 20th centuries, astronomy transformed into a rigorous science. More powerful telescopes and innovative techniques allowed us to explore beyond our solar system. Exoplanets, distant galaxies, and phenomena like black holes were discovered. However, not everyone had access to this new understanding. Most people continued to look at the sky in awe, unaware of the secrets hidden behind that vast darkness. How would our lives be if we could fully understand the universe? Today, the sky is more accessible than ever thanks to technology. With apps on our phones, we can identify constellations by simply pointing at the stars. However, despite this accessibility, the experience of stargazing has changed. Light pollution has transformed the night landscape, robbing us of the beauty of a starry sky. How does this affect us? The answer is profound, as our cultural and emotional connections with the stars are at stake. On the other hand, science continues to advance. The exploration of Mars and missions to other planets have taught us that the sky is not just a place to dream, but a space where we can seek answers about our own existence. Questions about whether we are alone in the universe are becoming increasingly relevant. But what would happen if one day the sky completely darkened, with no stars to observe? Throughout history, the stars have been beacons of hope, guides for navigators, and symbols of inspiration for artists and poets. However, science also reminds us that stars are not eternal. Eventually, all will come to an end. Reflecting on this cycle, one might wonder, what legacy are we leaving for future generations? The stars have witnessed our history, but they are also the future of the unknown. The connection between the sky and humanity is a thread that binds us over time. Each civilization has looked up for answers, and each has left its mark on how we understand the cosmos. Stories of love, war, sacrifice, and hope have been written under that vast starry mantle. Yet, the question persists, what will happen if that mantle goes out? Looking ahead, it is crucial not only to learn about the sky, but also to protect it. The story of the sky is not just a tale of the past, it is a call to action. The fight against light pollution and the preservation of nighttime darkness are essential to keeping our connection with the stars alive. Are we willing to fight for a future where the sky shines again? Thus, the sky becomes a reflection of our own story, a constant reminder of what we have achieved and what remains to be discovered. Humanity stands at a turning point. The story of the sky is a story of hope, curiosity, and above all, connection. In each star shines a bit of our being, and it is our responsibility to ensure that light never goes out. The night is cloaked in a dark mantle sprinkled with twinkling lights, the stars. But have you ever stopped to think about what happens when that beauty fades away? Light pollution has become a phenomenon that transforms our nights into a spectacle of artificial lights, hiding the majesty of the night sky. This situation leads us to consider a world where the stars do not shine, and more alarmingly, how that world affects our environment. What exactly is light pollution? Imagine that every time you turn on a light in your house, you are creating a small bubble of illumination that expands throughout your neighborhood. Now multiply that by millions of homes, illuminated streets, and office buildings that never sleep. It's as if the night decided to hide behind a veil of neon, making us forget that the sky is there, waiting to be observed. The consequences of this overabundance of light are deeper than you might imagine. Ecosystems also suffer. Many animals depend on darkness to navigate, hunt, or reproduce. Did you know that sea turtles, when they hatch, orient themselves toward the ocean guided by the light of the stars? When artificial light dominates the landscape, these creatures can lose their way and head toward dangerous areas. Essentially, the brightness of our cities could be extinguishing life in other parts of the planet. But it's not just animals that are affected. Light pollution also has repercussions on our health. Humans, when exposed to bright lights at night, disrupt our circadian rhythms, affecting our sleep and overall well-being. How many times have you gone from the calm of a starry night to the harsh light of a screen? That interruption of the natural cycle can lead to long-term health problems such as insomnia or depression. In our quest for comfort and safety, we have forgotten the value of darkness. However, there is more at stake. Astronomy, that fascinating science that brings us closer to the universe, is in danger. Astronomers depend on dark skies to observe the cosmos. Stars, planets, and galaxies hide behind a curtain of artificial light. Can you imagine a world where astronomical discoveries are limited to what can be seen in illuminated cities? Without clear skies, the next generation of scientists could lose the opportunity to explore and understand the universe. As artificial light expands, so does the disconnection between humans and the sky. Stars have been a source of inspiration, guidance, and wonder for millennia. How many poets have written about the beauty of the Milky Way? How many stories have emerged from the simple act of looking up? Without that connection, we risk losing part of our cultural identity. The legends and myths that have shaped our civilizations could fade away along with the constellations. The good news is that awareness of this issue is growing. In many cities, initiatives are being implemented to reduce light pollution. Did you know that there are communities that have opted for low brightness lights and warmer colors? These small actions can make a big difference. By doing so, they not only preserve the beauty of the sky, but also protect wildlife and improve the quality of life for their residents. However, eradicating light pollution is not solely the responsibility of authorities. Each of us can contribute to this effort, from turning off unnecessary lights in our homes to using curtains that block external light. Every small gesture counts. Can you imagine what it would be like to step outside and see a sky full of bright stars? That vision is not so far from reality if we all join in this effort. Education also plays a fundamental role in the fight against light pollution. If we start teaching new generations about the importance of the night sky and how to care for it, we could see a significant change. Schools can incorporate astronomy into their curriculum, as well as promote stargazing activities. By empowering young people with this knowledge, we are providing them with the necessary tools to become advocates for the sky. In a world where the stars are fading, human curiosity fades as well. If we stop looking up, we risk losing the wonder and awe that unite us as a species. The search for answers about our place in the universe begins with the ability to observe it. Without the brightness of the stars, what motivation would we have to understand our own origins? Light pollution is not just an aesthetic problem, it is a challenge that affects our planet, our health, and our culture. As we reflect on this issue, it is vital to remember that our sky is a precious resource, a legacy we must protect. The next time you look up, consider the possibility that the stars are calling to be seen, reminding us that even in darkness there is always light. The stars, those bright points that adorn our night sky, have a fascinating and complex life. But have you ever wondered how they are born and die? The story of the stars is a tale of transformation and renewal, an eternal cycle that shapes our universe. Starting from the beginning, stars form in large clouds of gas and dust in space. This material, known as nebulae, is like the cosmic workshop where stars see the light for the first time. When conditions are right, gravity begins to pull the gas and dust together, creating a dense core. Did you know that in this process the temperature and pressure increase so much that a nuclear reaction occurs? Like a firework bursting in the sky, hydrogen turns into helium, releasing a tremendous amount of energy. This is the birth of a star. Once a star has begun its life, it enters a stage of stability. Imagine a burning campfire, slowly consuming the firewood. For billions of years, stars shine with a constant light, like guardians of the sky. However, every cycle has an end. The life of a star depends on its mass. Larger stars burn their fuel faster and therefore have shorter lives. What is the fate of a massive star when it runs out of fuel? A supernova. This is an explosive spectacle that can shine brighter than 1 billion stars combined, and it is an event that can be observed from enormous distances. Smaller stars, like our Sun, follow a different path. When they run out of hydrogen, they expand and become red giants. This process results in the creation of heavier elements such as carbon and oxygen. But what happens next? The star can no longer sustain itself and eventually sheds its outer layers, leaving behind a hot core known as a white dwarf. Have you ever imagined that in a distant future, our Sun will become a white dwarf? This process is crucial, as the expelled elements enrich space, becoming the raw material for new stars, planets, and even life. The death of a star is as important as its birth. In the cycle of the universe, every end is a new beginning. But what does this mean for us, the inhabitants of a small planet in a corner of the cosmos? Every time we look at the sky, we are seeing not only stars, but also the legacy of stars that have lived before us. Isn't it amazing to think that the atoms in our own existence could have been part of a star that shone millions of years ago? But the story of the stars doesn't stop here. When a star explodes as a supernova, it can give rise to the formation of black holes or neutron stars, objects so dense that they challenge our understanding of physics. A black hole is a whirlpool in space that traps everything around it, even light. What implications does this have for the universe? The gravity of these objects can alter the course of other stars and galaxies. As we explore the life cycle of stars, it is also important to remember that each one has its own story. Some are born in groups forming star clusters, while others may live solitary lives. In contrast, young stars full of energy are like teenagers brimming with vitality, while the old, weary ones remind us that everything has its time. And here arises an intriguing question. What would happen if stars did not exist in our sky? The answer is profound. Without stars, there would be no light to guide navigators, no inspiration for poets and artists, nor references for our myths and legends. The absence of stars would change not only our view of the sky, but also our connection to the universe. As we explore the life cycle of stars, we also discover how their death and rebirth affect the formation of new stars. This cycle is essential for the evolution of the cosmos. Without the death of stars, there would be no new worlds to explore. The diversity of stars and planets in the universe is a testament to this endless cycle. The life and death of stars are a reminder of the fragility and beauty of the cosmos. Each star is a beacon of energy and light, but also a reminder that everything that shines must eventually fade. Thus, when we look at the sky, we not only see the light of the stars, but the echo of their existence, an eternal dance between creation and destruction. In conclusion, the life cycle of stars is an astonishing phenomenon that connects us to the universe. Every star we see in the sky has a story to tell, and by understanding their cycle, we begin to understand our own place in this vast cosmos. Isn't it fascinating to think that by looking at the stars, we are looking back in time to moments that have shaped existence itself? The expansion of the universe is a fascinating phenomenon that invites us to reflect on our existence and our place in the cosmos. But what does it really mean for the universe to be expanding? It's like having a balloon and starting to inflate it. As the balloon expands, the small marks you painted on its surface move away from each other. In the case of the universe, those marks are the galaxies. Each year, each millennium, each eon, those galaxies drift apart. And this has a direct impact on the visibility of the stars we love so much. Now think about the sky we see every night. The stars that shine in it are just a fraction of what exists in the vast universe. However, over time, some of those stars are moving away so much that they will become invisible to us. This phenomenon is not just a matter of distance, it also relates to time. In the distant future, if we continue on this path, our view of the night sky could change drastically. Can you imagine a sky where the constellations we know simply disappear? As the universe expands, it also cools. The stars we see today are in an active stage of their lives, but eventually they will run out of fuel. Most of the stars shining in the sky have been burning for billions of years, but it is estimated that in about 10 billion years, many of them will have exhausted their energy. So we are not only talking about a sky where the stars are drifting apart, but also about a sky where they will eventually go extinct. How does this affect us? What about our emotional connection to the cosmos? Imagine that each star is like a lamp in a large room. As that room expands, the lamps move away from each other. Over time, some lamps will go out. If you find yourself in that room, wouldn't you feel a mix of nostalgia and unease as you watch the lights you knew fade away? This feeling could be the same as what we would experience when looking up and seeing an increasingly empty sky. The expansion of the universe is not just a matter of physics, it also has philosophical and emotional implications. What does it mean for us as human beings to know that the sky we see today might not be the same in the future? This question leads us to reflect on our existence and our place in the cosmos. It confronts us with the idea of impermanence and the fragility of our environment. On the other hand, the expansion of the universe offers us a unique opportunity to think about the search for new worlds. As galaxies separate, new spaces open up in the cosmos where new stars might form, along with new planetary systems. Could it be that in a distant future, far from our home, other civilizations exist looking up at a sky full of stars that we cannot see? Science has also made significant advances in understanding the expansion of the universe. Through the observation of supernovae and cosmic background radiation, astronomers have been able to measure the rate at which the universe expands. However, despite these advances, many questions remain unanswered. How will this expansion affect life on other planets? Could we one day travel to those distant worlds before they become invisible stars? Knowledge about the expansion of the universe could also have practical applications. As we delve into space exploration, understanding how the universe behaves can help us develop technologies that allow us to navigate it more efficiently. But at the same time, it also reminds us of how small our planet is compared to the vast cosmos. The future of our perception of the sky and the stars is uncertain. As the universe continues to expand, we may face a future where our nights are marked by the absence of the lights that inspire us so much. However, it is crucial to remember that although some stars may go out, there will always be new stars born in distant places. Ultimately, the expansion of the universe invites us to look beyond our home. It challenges us to think about what it means to be human in a constantly changing cosmos. As we confront the idea of a starless sky, we can also find hope in the possibility of new stars and new stories to tell. So as we look up at the sky, let us remember that each star we observe is a reminder of our own journey and the endless quest for knowledge and connection. And although the universe expands and changes, our curiosity and desire to understand it will always shine, even in the darkness. What are the connections between climate change and what we see in the night sky? It may seem that these two concepts are far removed from each other, but in fact, they are more intertwined than we think. Imagine a clear night where the stars shine brightly, illuminating the vast universe. Now, what if that vision faded away? The answer to this unsettling question leads us to explore how climate change affects our ability to see and appreciate the night sky. As the Earth warms, weather patterns change. This means that in addition to having higher temperatures, we also experience more extreme weather phenomena. Did you know that storms are more frequent and intense due to these changes? This may seem like a minor detail, but those cloudy storms are responsible for hiding the starry sky we long to see. If we think of the sky as a painting, the clouds become a canvas that covers the masterpiece above. Air pollution is another factor to consider. As cities grow and industrialize, greenhouse gases and other pollutants accumulate in the atmosphere. This not only affects our health, but also creates a veil that blocks the light from the stars. Imagine having a window to observe the outside world, but that window is covered in dirt and smog. This is how many of us experience the sky today. But what about artificial light? It is a concept that has gained significant relevance in recent decades. Cities shine with lights that allow us to see and live without darkness. However, this constant brightness has created an effect that dims the stars. Artificial light not only makes the stars appear fainter, but it also alters the behavior of nocturnal wildlife, affecting their life cycles. Have you ever heard birds singing at dawn? That may be because they are confused by the city lights and think it is already daytime. The effects of climate change are not limited to the visibility of the night sky. They also have implications for astronomy itself. If the weather becomes unpredictable, astronomers studying the skies face a challenge. Clear nights are vital for observation. Without them, telescopes cannot capture the distant light from stars and galaxies. It's like trying to watch a movie with the screen covered, no matter how bright the projection is. If there is no clarity, the story gets lost. Moreover, climate change could affect the formation of new constellations. With the expansion of industrialization, many areas that were once dark and perfect for observation are becoming illuminated. But how does this affect those stars that still shine? The answer is simple. Many of them could remain hidden forever. The relationship between climate change and the visibility of the night sky also impacts our emotional connection with the universe. Looking at the stars inspires us, makes us feel small in the vastness of the cosmos. Without that connection, how does it affect our mental and emotional health? The starry night is more than just a spectacle. It is a refuge for reflection and contemplation. Without it, what do we have left? It is important to remember that although climate change is a formidable challenge, there is hope. Awareness of light pollution and climate change is growing. By understanding how these factors interrelate, we can take steps to protect our night sky. Can you imagine a future where we can see the stars shine again? Education is key in this fight. By teaching new generations about the importance of the sky and how to care for it, we are planting the seeds for a brighter future. Every small effort counts, from using more efficient lights to promoting the conservation of natural areas. Every action can have an impact, so what can we do? Let's reflect on our relationship with the sky. What does it mean to us? Why is it important to preserve those night views? The stars have been our guides, our myths and legends. Without them, humanity would lose an important part of its history. As we move toward an uncertain future, reconnecting with the sky can be a source of escape and hope. It reminds us that despite the problems we face, there is always beauty to admire. A sky without stars would not only be a visual void, but also a cultural and emotional void. The connection between climate change and the night sky is a reminder that our actions have consequences. Every decision we make, from how we consume energy to how we plan our cities, can impact the view we have of the cosmos. With every star that goes out, we lose a part of ourselves. It is time to act, to care for what remains, and to fight for a sky that inspires us all. What would happen if one day we looked up at the sky and saw no stars? The absence of stars would not only change the beauty of the firmament, but would also profoundly alter our search for life on other planets. How does the presence of stars influence the possibility of finding life beyond Earth? To understand this, it is essential to explore the role that stars play in the universe and in our own existence. Stars are like beacons in the vastness of space. Their light is the signal that indicates there is something beyond our planet. On one hand, they are the laboratories where the elements that compose everything we know are created. From the oxygen we breathe to the carbon that forms the basis of life. Without stars, the essential elements for our existence would not have emerged. Moreover, they are also the places where the necessary conditions for life are generated. What would happen if we stopped seeing those twinkling lights in the sky? When we look into space, we are also looking into our past. The light from stars takes millions of years to reach us, which means that by observing them, we are seeing stories that have been written over eons. If there were no stars, that connection to the past would be lost. But beyond nostalgia, the search for life on other planets would be severely affected. What implications would this have for scientists who dedicate their lives to astrobiology? Astrobiology is the study of life in the universe. Astrobiologists seek answers to intriguing questions. How did life originate? Are there other forms of life in the cosmos? Stars act as indicators of planetary systems that could harbor life. If the sky went dark and our stars disappeared, scientists would lose crucial clues about where to search. Without the light of the stars, how would we know if there are other habitable worlds in our galaxy? Let us imagine for a moment that in the future, humanity has developed the technology to explore other stellar systems. But there are no stars to guide our way. How could we identify planets that orbit their own stars? The absence of these lights would make the search for other habitable worlds an even more challenging task. Like trying to find a needle in a dark, empty haystack. Furthermore, stars not only mark the presence of planets, but also have a direct impact on the conditions that could allow life. The distance of a planet from its parent star determines whether it is in the habitable zone, where conditions are suitable for water to remain in a liquid state, an essential element for life as we know it. Without stars, that habitable zone simply would not exist. How would our theories about life in the universe change if the very foundation of those theories vanished? The search for life elsewhere is also based on the premise that life can be diverse. The different conditions offered by various types of stars can give rise to different forms of life. Some stars, like red dwarfs, have a much longer lifespan than larger stars, which could allow life to evolve and adapt over billions of years. Without the diversity of stars and their planetary systems, we would lose the opportunity to discover forms of life that challenge our current understanding. It is interesting to think about how our perception of life has expanded thanks to the stars. As we have learned more about the cosmos, we have also begun to imagine possibilities that once seemed unimaginable. The disappearance of stars would mean not only a loss in scientific exploration, but also in our ability to dream. How could future generations conceive of life if the sky were to darken forever? From a philosophical standpoint, the absence of stars could lead us to rethink our own existence. If the sky went dark, what would it mean to be human in a vacant universe? Stars have been a source of inspiration and hope throughout history, guiding explorers and dreamers. Without them, the search for meaning could become more complicated and perhaps more somber. The search for life is not just a scientific issue, it is also an emotional journey. The connection we feel when observing the stars reflects our desire to belong to something greater than ourselves. A starless sky could create an emotional void in our quest for answers about who we are and where we are going. Finally, it is important to consider how the absence of stars could change our relationship with Earth. Stars have taught us about cycles, timing, and the place we occupy in the vast universe. Without them, we could lose our sense of our place in the cosmos. The search for life on other planets would become a distant echo of what was once a dream shared by humanity. So as we reflect on what it means to live in a world without stars, we can appreciate even more the beauty and importance of our night sky. The light of the stars is more than a visual spectacle. It is a guide, a reminder that the universe is vast and full of possibilities. The search for life in many ways is also a search for connection, and without the stars, that quest would become a monumental challenge. Are we prepared to face a future without the lights that have guided us since the dawn of time? How would our lives be without the stars? It's an intriguing question that invites reflection. The stars, those tiny lights twinkling in the night sky, have been companions of humanity since time immemorial. They have guided, inspired, and fascinated us. But what has technology done for our connection with these wonders of the universe? Telescopes, those instruments that seem straight out of a science fiction movie, have transformed the way we see the sky. Imagine a world where instead of looking up and seeing a vast ocean of stars, you only saw a black canvas. It would undoubtedly be a drastic change, and this is where technology plays a crucial role. Telescopes have opened a window to the unknown, allowing us to explore beyond what our eyes can see. But how did they become so important? Since their inception, telescopes have evolved in surprising ways. In the 17th century, Galileo Galilei was one of the first to use a telescope to observe the sky. With his small and rudimentary instrument, he discovered the moons of Jupiter and the phases of Venus. That was a revelation that changed our understanding of the universe. But what if Galileo had never looked through the telescope? The answer is simple. We wouldn't have the same view of the cosmos, thanks to modern technology. Today we can observe galaxies that are millions of light years away. Telescopes like Hubble have captured stunning images that show us the beauty and complexity of the universe. But what if those images were just memories? Imagine a future where telescopes could not capture the light of the stars. Without those images, we would lose a significant part of the universe's history. Every star we see today has its own story, from its birth to its death. However, the disappearance of the stars would not only affect scientists and astronomers. Each one of us, even without being experts in astronomy, would be affected. The contemplation of the sky has been a source of inspiration for artists, poets, and philosophers. How many times have we looked at the stars and felt a connection to something greater than ourselves? Without stars, we would lose that emotional connection. The loneliness of an empty sky could have a profound impact on our psyche. How would we feel looking up and seeing nothing? Technology has not only changed the way we observe, but also the way we understand. Telescopes have allowed for astonishing discoveries, such as the existence of exoplanets, distant worlds that could harbor life. But with a starless sky, what would happen to the search for those new worlds? Without the glow of the stars, our nights would be darker, and not just in a literal sense. The lack of starlight could affect how we develop new technologies to explore space. Solar energy, for example, relies on sunlight, which in turn is part of that vast cosmos. Would we be able to innovate without the inspiration that the stars provide? The importance of telescopes also lies in their ability to bring us closer to science. With each discovery, curiosity is awakened and learning is fostered. Without the possibility of looking at the sky, how would we motivate new generations to take an interest in science and space exploration? Furthermore, we cannot forget the connection that telescopes provide us with history. Each captured image is a glimpse into the past. It allows us to see what the universe was like millions of years ago. Without that access, we would lose an essential part of our cosmic heritage. the story of the stars is also the story of humanity. As telescopes continue to evolve, new opportunities for exploration present themselves. Technology is advancing rapidly, and today we have space telescopes that can observe the universe without the interference of Earth's atmosphere. But what would happen if that progress were to stop? A sky without stars would mean a stagnation in the exploration of the cosmos. Without the glow of the stars, the longing to discover the unknown could fade away. Human curiosity is insatiable, but what would drive us to keep exploring if there is nothing to observe? Telescopes are not just scientific tools, they are an extension of our innate curiosity. They connect us to the universe and remind us how small we are in the vastness of the cosmos. Without them, we would miss the opportunity to discover our place in the universe. The question that remains is, are we willing to let that happen? So as we look up at the sky, let us remember the importance of technology and science. The stars, though distant, are a part of us, and while in an imaginary future we might live without them, it would be a very different future, one we must strive to avoid. The preservation of the night sky is not just a matter of aesthetics. It is a necessity for our understanding, our inspiration, and ultimately, our humanity. The stars have been a part of our lives since time immemorial, serving as beacons in the darkness and guiding us through the nights. But have you ever thought about how these bright lights have influenced our culture and way of thinking? Since ancient times, the stars have been a source of inspiration for myths, legends, and narratives that have shaped the identity of different civilizations. The mythology of many ancient cultures is filled with stories revolving around the stars. In classical Greece, for example, the constellations were seen as gods and heroes. The ancient Greeks not only identified the stars, but also attributed stories to them that reflected their world. What would a sky without those stories mean for us? Without the constellations that have taught us about bravery and wisdom, how would our narratives change? The stars have also been a symbol of dreams and aspirations. Throughout history, poets and writers have looked to the sky for inspiration. The stars represent the unattainable, the beautiful, and the mysterious. For instance, do you remember the famous phrase by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry in The Little Prince? It speaks of how men forget that the stars are a reminder of what truly matters in life. Without that starry sky, where would we find the inspiration to keep dreaming? In art, the stars have appeared in countless works, from Van Gogh's paintings to Mozart's compositions. These lights have influenced not only how we see the world, but also how we feel about it. What would a masterpiece look like without the presence of a starry sky inviting reflection? Without the stars, art could lose a vital part of its essence, its connection to the eternal. The constellations have also served as navigation tools. Since ancient times, sailors have looked to the sky for orientation. The stars have acted like a map, guiding travelers through unknown oceans. Can you imagine a world where navigators couldn't find their way? Where the stars were nothing more than a memory? Without them, the exploration of the world could have been completely different. Some cultures have used the stars to mark the passage of time and the seasons. Agriculture, for example, depends on seasonal cycles that are often aligned with the constellations. Without a starry sky, how would that affect our traditions, our festivities, and our connection to the earth? The disappearance of the stars could lead us to lose that fundamental connection with the cycles of nature. The impact of the stars on religion and spirituality is also significant. Many religions have integrated the stars into their beliefs and practices, seeing them as symbols of the divine. In this sense, the night sky becomes a mirror of our longings and hopes. Without stars, how would our beliefs and our search for meaning change? The starry sky has also been a refuge for contemplation and meditation. Looking at the stars can be an act of connection with the infinite, a reminder that we are part of something much larger. What would happen if this act of reflection were threatened? Without stars, we could lose one of the oldest ways of seeking peace and understanding. Poetry, literature, and art are just a small reflection of the profound influence that stars have on our lives. Every time we look at the night sky, we are connected with generations of humans who have done the same. However, if one day the sky went dark and the stars disappeared, what legacy would we leave for future generations? The answer is unsettling. A sky without stars could mean a void in our narratives, in our traditions, and in our connection with the cosmos. The stars teach us about hope, beauty, and the mystery of existence. Without them, we could lose not only our ability to dream, but also our identity as human beings. The constellations we know and love have been a beacon of light in the darkness, guiding our souls toward imagination and creativity. But could we find new forms of inspiration in a world without stars? Perhaps we would have to look within ourselves, creating new stories and symbols to fill that void. However, would that be enough? So as we enjoy the starry sky, let us remember the importance of preserving that bond with the stars. Culture, history, navigation, and spirituality are deeply intertwined with those lights in the firmament. Protecting our sky is protecting our humanity, our stories, and our future. What would you do to ensure that the stars continue to shine in the darkness of the night? What would happen if the constellations we know lost their brightness and faded into the vastness of the sky? Stars are much more than mere points of light. They are beacons that have guided humanity throughout the centuries. And their disappearance would have a profound impact on our culture and our way of seeing the world. Undoubtedly, the constellations have been a map in the darkness, a visual language that has connected generations of people. From the ancient Greeks to the indigenous peoples of America, each culture has woven stories and myths around these stellar groupings. What would happen to those stories if we could no longer see them? Without the constellations, we would lose not only a visual map of the sky, but also an invaluable cultural resource that has shaped our identity. Imagine a child looking at the sky for the first time, pointing to the Big Dipper and asking their parents about the stories hidden behind those stars. However, if the sky were empty, that child would grow up without the magic of the stories that once inspired their ancestors. How would they feel looking up and finding nothing but darkness? The connection to the cosmos would blur, and with it, a fundamental part of our human experience. The absence of constellations would also transform the way we navigate on Earth. For centuries, navigators have looked to the stars to find their way at sea. Without the constellations, how would they have found their course? Modern navigation relies on advanced technologies, but there is still a symbolic value in looking to the sky and allowing its light to guide us. Without that reference, the search for direction would become more complicated and less poetic. Delving into the emotional realm, the loss of the constellations could create a void in our lives. The stars have been a symbol of hope, a reminder that there is something greater than ourselves. Without them, how could we find inspiration? The night would become darker, and loneliness could take hold of many. Our connection to the universe would be threatened, and we might feel more isolated in our search for meaning. Mythology would also suffer a great blow. The constellations have been protagonists in countless tales, from heroes and gods to fantastic creatures. Without these stories, what legacy would we leave for future generations? It would be like living in a world without stories, where imagination is limited and creativity stagnates. The human narrative, so rich and diverse, would be impoverished by the lack of celestial references. Furthermore, the disappearance of the constellations could affect our relationship with nature. Many peoples have used the stars to mark the seasons and understand the cycles of life. Without this ancestral knowledge, we could lose our sense of place in the ecosystem. Agriculture, hunting, and gathering depend on a deep understanding of natural cycles, and without the stars, that understanding could fade away. Science would also be affected. Astronomy, at its core, is an effort to understand the universe. The constellations are a starting point for exploring the sky, and without them, human curiosity could be discouraged. The loss of stars would mean the loss of a language that has allowed us to communicate with the cosmos. How would we continue to investigate the unknown without a reference point that inspires us to look up? But not everything would be negative. The disappearance of the constellations could give rise to new ways of seeing the sky. Perhaps humanity would be forced to seek new ways to connect with the universe. creating new myths and stories around what remains. Human creativity always finds a way, and although we would lose much, we could build something new. Technology could also play a crucial role in this transition. If the constellations disappeared, we might develop tools to help us digitally recreate them, providing a visual experience that compensates for the lack of natural light. Augmented reality could allow us to see a starry sky where none exists, offering a window into the past and a way to connect with our history. The constellations have been an integral part of education over the years. Without them, learning about the sky would become more abstract and less accessible. Astronomy lessons would transform, and new generations might lose the opportunity to marvel at learning about the universe. The emotional connection that comes from looking at the stars and understanding their significance would be compromised. The cultural impact of a starless sky could be monumental. Literature, art, and music have been inspired by the cosmos, and losing that reference could leave a void that would be difficult to fill. The stars have been sources of inspiration for poets and artists, and their absence would lead to a loss of the beauty that only the sky can offer. Finally, reflecting on the future, it is important to ask ourselves how we could adapt to this new world without constellations. Perhaps we would find new ways to come together and create community through the exploration of other aspects of nature and the cosmos. We would be compelled to seek connections elsewhere, perhaps in the Earth itself or even in the ocean, where life often reflects the wonders of the universe. The disappearance of the constellations could change our perception of the sky and, at the same time, open new doors to creativity, science, and human connection. Although it would be a challenge, the story of humanity has always been one of adaptation and overcoming, and perhaps in this new horizon, we would find innovative ways to continue looking up, seeking answers in a sky that, although no longer shining, remains a symbol of our desire to understand the unknown. When we look up at the sky, what we see are thousands of shining stars, each with its own story. But have you ever stopped to think about the tool that allows us to uncover those secrets? Telescopes are like windows to the universe. They offer us the possibility to look beyond what our eyes can see. However, their journey has been long and fascinating, filled with curiosities and advancements that have revolutionized our understanding of the cosmos. In their early days, telescopes were simple, almost rudimentary compared to what we have today. In the 17th century, Galileo Galilei used a simple tube with lenses to observe the moons of Jupiter and the phases of Venus. Can you imagine the excitement he felt when he realized there was more in the sky than had been thought? With that first telescope, he opened the door to a new world, a world where astronomy could be more than just speculation. Years passed and technology advanced. Then came Newton's telescope, which used a mirror instead of lenses. This change allowed for the observation of fainter and more distant objects. But how does it feel to look through a telescope that has also been a masterpiece of engineering? Each advancement has been like a small leap in the history of humanity, a step closer to understanding our place in the universe. As time went on, telescopes became larger and more powerful. In the 20th century, the Palomar Observatory telescope, with its 5-meter mirror, became a symbol of modern astronomy. With it, astronomers were able to observe distant galaxies and study the structure of the universe. But what would happen if the stars suddenly disappeared? Without them, these instruments would lose much of their purpose. The arrival of space telescopes like Hubble marked a radical change. Being outside the Earth's atmosphere, Hubble can capture images of the universe without the interference of light and clouds. Imagine being able to see the cosmos with a clarity and detail that were previously unthinkable. Each photograph taken by Hubble has revealed new worlds and raised more questions than answers. But what will happen if the sky goes dark and there are no more stars to observe? Without the stars, telescopes would become empty tools, unable to fulfill their most basic function to show us the beauty and mystery of the universe. Science, which advances by leaps and bounds thanks to these instruments, would be severely affected. Without the starry skies, how could we continue exploring and discovering the unknown? The impact of the disappearance of the stars would not only affect telescopes, but also our understanding of time and space. What would happen to discoveries about black holes and distant galaxies? Without a sky full of lights, theories about the formation of the universe would become obsolete. Astronomy, at its essence, is based on observation. And without stars, how could we continue building our knowledge? The evolution of telescopes has been a reflection of our innate curiosity. Each new generation of telescopes has been designed to answer questions we could only dream of before. Technology advances, but its purpose remains the same: to understand the cosmos. However, the loss of a starry sky would mean that many of those questions would remain unanswered. Imagine for a moment a night without stars. Total darkness, no constellations to guide travelers, no stories to tell under their light. How would scientists feel looking up and seeing a void? Astronomy, as we know it, could transform into a discipline studying the past, where the stories of the stars are just tales from a distant time. Telescopes are also a testament to our quest for answers. Every time we point one of these instruments at the sky, we do so with the hope of discovering something new. But what would happen if the sky became a blank canvas? The excitement of a new discovery would fade, and with it, the passion that drives astronomers to keep searching. The importance of telescopes lies not only in their ability to observe, but also in their role as a bridge between science and humanity. They connect us to the universe and remind us that we are part of something much larger. Without stars, we would lose that connection, and telescopes would become mere artifacts of a past filled with light and wonder. The evolution of telescopes has also allowed for a better understanding of our own planet. By observing other worlds, we have learned more about Earth and its place in the cosmos. But if the sky goes dark, that exploration would come to a halt. We would be left with unanswered questions about how planets form and what conditions are necessary for life. As we move toward the future, it is essential to recognize the role that telescopes have played in our history. They have allowed us to look up toward the unknown and dream of what lies beyond. However, a sky without stars would not only affect astronomers, but all of humanity. The loss of those bright lights would mean the loss of our curiosity, our quest for knowledge, and ultimately our connection to the universe. The next time you look up at the sky, remember the story of telescopes. They are more than mere instruments. They are our window to the cosmos, our guide in the darkness. What future awaits us if that sky goes dark? The answer to that question could define our existence as a species. In a world where the stars go out, how would our navigation routes be affected? Since time immemorial, the sky has been a guide for explorers and travelers. The stars have served as beacons, allowing sailors to orient themselves in the vastness of the ocean and land travelers to find their way on solid ground. Without the glow of these celestial lights, what alternatives would we have to navigate? Traditional navigation, an art cultivated over centuries, relies on the observation of constellations. The ancient Greeks, for example, used the Big Dipper to find the north. Without stars, the reliance on these ancestral methods disappears. But what would happen to modern technology? It is true that today we have global positioning systems, known as GPS, that allow us to pinpoint our location anywhere in the world. However, the dependence on technology also carries its risks. What would happen if a system failure left us without access to these tools at a critical moment? When thinking about navigation without stars, it is interesting to consider how cultures have developed their relationship with the sky. In ancient times, indigenous peoples around the world used the stars not only for navigation but also to tell stories, pass on knowledge, and ritualize events. Without stars, what would happen to these traditions? Would we lose part of our cultural identity? Future generations might feel disconnected from their history and heritage if there is no bright sky to look up to. Moreover, navigation is not limited to oceans and lands. Airplanes, which soar through the skies at great speed, also relied on the stars in their early days, although today they use advanced instruments and radar technology. The essence of orientation in the sky remains a fundamental part of aviation. Without a sky full of stars, pilots might face a lack of visual references at night. What would happen if, in a moment of fog or storm, they could not turn to the stars for guidance? Thinking of a world without stars also leads us to question the impact on wildlife. Many animal species, such as migratory birds, use the stars as guides on their long journeys. If the sky were to darken, how would this affect the migratory routes of these creatures? The alteration of their behavior could have repercussions on the ecosystems and biodiversity we know. Nature, in its delicate balance, could be disrupted in ways we cannot yet foresee. The idea of a darkened sky also raises the question of how we would move in this new world. Land navigation could become confusing. Without the constellations as reference points, cities and roads already designed for the modern era would have to adapt to include new navigation technologies. This could lead to the creation of new tools and methods, but also to a greater dependence on systems that could fail. Looking back at history, we realize that the exploration of the world has been deeply linked to the observation of the sky. From Columbus to Magellan, great explorers were guided by the stars. Without these lights, the spirit of adventure could be affected. Human curiosity, that spark that drives us to explore the unknown, might fade along with the stars. Would we become more sedentary, less inclined to venture into the unknown? The impact could also be felt in science. Astronomy, which has been fundamental to understanding our place in the universe, could suffer a setback. Without visible stars, research on space and our understanding of our cosmic environment would be limited. What would happen to future generations of scientists and astronomers who would not have a sky full of wonders to inspire their work and curiosity? Education would also play a crucial role in this scenario. Teaching about the stars and their importance would be limited. How would we teach children about the vastness of the universe if there is no sky to look at? Lessons about constellations and the history of navigation would lose their relevance. The lack of connection to the sky could lead to a disconnection from science and exploration. Finally, the idea of a sky without stars leads us to reflect on our relationship with the environment. Nature has always provided us with a sense of wonder and connection. Without a bright sky, how would our perception of the world change? The loss of the beauty of the universe could lead us to value our planet and the life on it less. The emotional connection we feel when looking at the stars, that sense of being part of something larger, could fade away. Navigation, in all its forms, is a reflection of our history and our quest for knowledge. A sky without stars would not only change how we move, but also how we perceive our place in the universe and our relationship with the natural world. The importance of the stars goes beyond their light. They are a symbol of discovery, connection, and the relentless human curiosity. In a world where the stars go out, we must ask ourselves, how will we adapt and what will we lose along the way? The future of astronomy presents itself as a desolate landscape if we imagine a world without stars. How would our understanding of the cosmos change if the sky appeared completely empty? Astronomy as we know it is based on the observation of those twinkling lights that have guided humanity for millennia. Without them, the science of the universe would undergo a radical transformation. First, let's think about telescopes. These powerful tools have allowed astronomers to explore the unknown. Without stars to observe, what sense would it make to continue developing telescopes? The search for new worlds and the understanding of cosmic phenomena would be severely limited. Human curiosity about the universe, which has driven great discoveries, could be extinguished. The exploration of the cosmos would become an exercise in imagination rather than a scientific activity. Current theories about the formation and fate of the universe depend on stars. If they were to disappear, the physics behind the creation of galaxies and the evolution of the cosmos would become obsolete. Without stars as a reference, theories about the expansion of the universe would need to be rewritten. Science, in its essence, feeds on data and observations. The absence of those lights in the sky would mean losing a vast amount of crucial information. In this new scenario, astronomy would be forced to adapt. Perhaps we would seek new ways to investigate the cosmos. What if we focused on the background radiation of the universe or gravitational waves? However, these alternatives would not be enough to fill the void left by the stars. The emotional connection we feel when looking at a starry sky is unique, and losing it would be like losing a part of our humanity. The history of astronomy is filled with discoveries that have changed our view of the world. Great astronomers have been guided by the stars in their quest for knowledge. Without them, how would we motivate new generations to take an interest in science? The lack of a starry sky could lead to a decline in interest in astronomy and science in general. Who would want to become an astronomer if the sky they observe has nothing to offer? Moreover, the impact on technology would be significant. Many innovations have arisen from the need to study and understand the stars. If the sky were to go dark, who would drive the next great technological revolution? Research in astrophysics could stagnate, and humanity would lose the opportunity to develop new technologies inspired by the cosmos. Curiosity about the unknown has been the engine of human progress, and without stars, that engine could stall. What would happen to international collaboration in astronomy? Telescopes and observatories have been meeting points for scientists from various nations. Without stars, one of the fundamental reasons for uniting in the pursuit of knowledge would be lost. Science has been a tool for peace and collaboration, and the disappearance of the starry sky could lead to a regression in those efforts. Education would also undergo a drastic change. Astronomy is one of the sciences that fascinates young people the most. Without a sky full of stars, what would happen to educational programs that inspire students to dream of becoming astronauts or scientists? The lack of an observable sky could lead to a void in learning about the universe and our place in it. Future generations might lose their connection to the cosmos, affecting their worldview and their place within it. Culture and art, realms that have found in the stars an inexhaustible source of inspiration, would also be affected. Poets, artists, and writers have looked to the sky to find beauty and meaning. Without stars, what would happen to their works? The human narrative, filled with myths and legends about constellations, could lose its magic. The stories that have endured through time would be incomplete without the presence of the starry sky. Amid all this, perhaps humanity would find new ways to relate to the cosmos. We might see a resurgence in the search for other forms of life and civilizations in the universe. The lack of stars could make us more introspective, seeking answers within ourselves rather than looking to the sky. However, this search could be more desperate and less focused, as if we were searching for light in a dark tunnel. In conclusion, the history of astronomy is intertwined with the existence of stars. Without them, we would not only lose a source of knowledge, but also a crucial part of our identity as human beings. Curiosity, creativity, and connection to the cosmos are aspects that define us. What future awaits us in a world where the sky has stopped shining? The answer to this question could define the course of humanity in the coming centuries. Astronomy, as we know it, could become a relic of the past, and with it, our connection to the universe that surrounds us. What would happen if the sky we see every night, filled with bright and mysterious stars, ceased to exist? This scenario might seem like a bad dream, but in the vast universe, there are concepts that could lead us to that unsettling reality. The physics of space-time helps us understand how the cosmos works, and it may reveal secrets we never would have imagined. The notion of space-time may sound complex, but essentially it is a way to describe the fabric of the universe. Imagine a canvas that stretches, where each star and planet are points marking its surface. This canvas is not static, it curves and deforms, especially when there are massive objects like stars or black holes. But what happens when this canvas wrinkles or tears? Could that cause the stars to disappear from our view? Black holes are one of the most enigmatic phenomena in this narrative. They are regions of space where gravity is so intense that not even light can escape. If a star gets too close to a black hole, it can be devoured, leaving behind a dark void. In a world where black holes proliferate, the possibility of many stars being swallowed is real. What would happen to the sky if these devourers became more common? Relativity, one of the most revolutionary theories in physics, teaches us that time and space are interrelated. When an object moves at high speed, time for that object flows more slowly compared to an observer at rest. Now imagine a universe where stars are moving away at such incredible speeds that time and space are distorted. How would we perceive the sky if the stars moved so fast that they faded from our view before we could even admire them? The expansion of the universe also plays a crucial role. Since the Big Bang, the cosmos has been constantly expanding. Galaxies are moving away from each other, and over time, some stars could fall out of our visual reach. If this process continues, we could find ourselves in a future where the sky, instead of being filled with stars, becomes a vast, dark ocean. What would this do to our perception of the universe? The emotional impact of an empty sky cannot be underestimated. Stars have been beacons of hope and guidance for humanity for millennia. Without them, our connection to the cosmos would be severely damaged. How would future generations feel looking up and only seeing a dark mantle? The search for meaning in the universe would become more difficult without the points of light that remind us we are part of something much larger. In exploring wormholes, which are theoretical shortcuts through space-time, we find another key to this narrative. If we were to discover one someday, we could travel instantly to distant places. But what would happen if these wormholes closed or became unstable? Imagine we are on a space journey, and suddenly the path crumbles. Could we return home without the stars guiding us? Quantum physics also comes into play when we consider the nature of light itself. The duality of light, which can behave both as a particle and a wave, raises questions about how we perceive the sky. If the light from the stars behaved differently, or if conditions in the universe changed, we could see a sky that we do not recognize. Could it be possible for light itself to fade in a constantly changing universe? The impacts of a starless sky would also extend to our understanding of time. Without the constellations that help us mark the seasons, our relationship with time would be altered. Cultures have relied on the stars for navigation and to celebrate rituals. Without their guidance, humanity could lose an important sense of continuity. What would we do to maintain that connection with the cycle of time? In the end, the disappearance of the stars confronts us with profound questions about our existence. Without the light of the stars, the universe could lose its beauty, mystery, and capacity to inspire. Science and philosophy intertwine in this reflection, challenging us to find meaning in a cosmic landscape that could become completely different. Could we find new ways to understand our place in the universe? In this hypothetical scenario, the need to preserve our vision of the sky becomes even more urgent. Science offers many solutions, but it also invites us to reflect on the responsibility we have as a species. What can we do to ensure that the sky remains a canvas filled with light and not a dark void? Exploring the physics of space-time and the concepts surrounding it not only helps us understand our universe, but also urges us to value the beauty of the sky we have now. Hope lies in our ability to explore, discover, and preserve what surrounds us. So how do we ensure that the stars continue to shine in our lives? At the end of this journey through physics and the cosmos, it is clear that the disappearance of the stars would have a profound impact on our perception of the universe and ourselves. Science and imagination must unite in the search for answers and solutions. The story of the stars is not just a story of light, it is a story of connection, inspiration, and the eternal quest for the unknown. What would happen if one day we woke up and the sky was completely empty, without a single star? The idea of a starless sky may seem like a simple fantasy, but when exploring the implications of such a reality, we encounter a profound emotional and psychological impact. Stars have been part of our existence since time immemorial, forming a part of our stories, mythologies, and dreams. Without them, what would remain of our connection to the universe? The starry night has been a source of inspiration for poets, artists, and scientists. Since ancient times, stars have guided navigators on their journeys, served as natural calendars, and fueled human curiosity about our place in the cosmos. However, imagine the desolation of a sky without stars, a dark canvas that offers no comfort or hope. The absence of these lights could lead us to feel isolated, disconnected from something much larger than ourselves. The relationship between humans and stars is almost magical. Every time we look up, we feel a mix of awe and humility. Without that brilliant spectacle, an emotional void could arise. The dark night could become a constant reminder of loss, generating feelings of sadness and hopelessness. Without a sky to admire, how would this affect our perception of the world and ourselves? Moreover, stars have been a symbol of hope. In many cultures, their light has represented the future, guidance in difficult times. Without that light, we might feel that we have lost the compass of our lives. How would we find comfort in the darkness? The search for answers could become more intense, leading us to seek sources of inspiration in unexpected places. Perhaps we would create new legends and myths, but would they be enough to fill the void left by the sky? The psychology of human beings is based on connections. Nature, the sky, the stars, all are part of a fabric that binds us together. Without the stars, we might see an increase in anxiety and depression. The night, which was once a time for reflection and connection, would transform into a reminder of what we have lost. The darkness could become a space of uncertainty, where fears emerge without the light that drives them away. In this world without stars, the search for meaning could intensify. Humanity has always sought answers to existential questions. Without a sky full of stars, would we seek answers within ourselves rather than in the cosmos? Introspection could be our only guide, leading us to explore the essence of our existence and our place in the world. The emotional impact of an empty sky would not only affect our individual psyche, but also our interpersonal relationships. In times of crisis, we often seek comfort in others. Without the beauty of stars to share, what would unite us? Perhaps we would find new ways to connect, but the feeling of loss could deepen the loneliness in a world that already feels disconnected. The need for beauty in our lives is fundamental. Without stars shining in the night, we might see an increase in the search for aesthetic alternatives. Humanity could turn to artistic creation, seeking new ways to express the pain of loss. Works of art and literature could become more intense, reflecting the longing for what is no longer there. The absence of stars could also affect our spirituality. For many people, the starry sky is a symbol of the divine, a reminder that there is something beyond the earthly. Without that connection, we might find ourselves in a desperate search for meaning, trying to fill the void with other beliefs or practices. Spirituality could transform, adapting to a world that has lost its light. However, science could also play a role in this new reality. The absence of stars could lead to an increase in research about the nature of the universe. What does it really mean to live in an empty cosmos? This void could become a new field of study, where questions about existence and reality become even more intriguing. Everyday life would also be affected. Starless nights could disrupt our circadian rhythms, impacting our sleep and well-being. Without the natural light that stars provide, we might see an increase in sleep disorders and fatigue. The connection between the sky and our biological cycles is deeper than we imagine, and its absence could be a devastating blow to our health. Education would also be affected. Without a starry sky to inspire new generations, how would we motivate young people to explore the world of science and astronomy? Curiosity about the cosmos has been a driving force for learning, and its absence could lead to a decline in interest in these disciplines. Perhaps we would have to reinvent the way we teach about the universe, finding new ways to inspire wonder. Finally, reflecting on a sky without stars invites us to consider the importance of caring for our environment. Light pollution and other factors that threaten our view of the night sky must be addressed urgently. The emotional connection we have with the stars is a reminder of what is at stake. Without a conscious effort to preserve the beauty of the sky, we could lose something that transcends the physical, a symbol of hope and connection. In conclusion, a world without stars would not only be an empty landscape, but a space filled with emotional and psychological absences. The light of the stars not only illuminates the night, it also gives meaning to our lives, connects our stories and nourishes our imagination. In a sky without light, humanity would be challenged to find new ways to give meaning to its existence. The search for answers, the creation of new connections, and the renewal of beauty would be essential to face a future without the brilliance of the stars. What does the ethics of science really mean? In the context of a starless sky, humanity's responsibility becomes even more critical. If we allow our artificial lights to drown out the beauty of the cosmos, what are we doing to our legacy? It is a dilemma that touches us all, from scientists to each of us in our daily lives. Ethics is not just an abstract topic, it is a moral compass that guides our decisions. In the case of astronomy and the preservation of the night sky, it is a fundamental question. Should we consider the sky as a heritage that must be protected? The stars have been our companions for millennia, and their disappearance could symbolize not only the loss of beauty, but also of connection with the universe around us. If we think about light pollution, who is the true culprit? Every time we turn on an unnecessary light, we are contributing to a phenomenon that affects not only our ability to observe the stars, but also the ecosystems that depend on darkness. Turtles, for example, are guided by the light of the moon to reach the ocean. If the sky is silent, with no stars to guide their paths, can we really justify our inaction? Technological advances have allowed us to illuminate our world in ways we never imagined, but at what cost? The convenience of having light in every corner has led to a neglect of the night sky. The question here is it worth sacrificing the beauty of the firmament for a little more light? Reflecting on this can help us find a balance between progress and preservation. Ethics in science also relates to the dissemination of knowledge. When scientists discover something new, they have the responsibility to share it, but also to educate about the impact that those discoveries can have on the world. If science is advancing by leaps and bounds, who educates the public about the importance of protecting the night sky? Every decision we make has an effect on the future. If we continue to ignore the need to care for our environment, what will we tell future generations? Imagine a world where stars are just a memory, a myth told to children in ancient stories. Is that what we want to leave behind? The ethics of science calls us to act now. Debates about ethical responsibility in science often focus on research and experimentation. However, the preservation of the sky is a field where we can all contribute. At the end of the day, it is up to us to decide what kind of legacy we want to leave. Ethics is not just for scientists, it is for everyone in society. A key point in this debate is the idea of intergenerational justice. If today we choose to ignore light pollution, we are affecting those who will come after us. Is it fair that our selfish decisions limit future generations' access to starry skies? Reflecting on this is crucial for changing our perspective. The emotional connection we have with the stars is undeniable. Since time immemorial, they have been a source of inspiration, guidance, and wonder. If we lose that connection, what will remain? The ethics of science invites us to think about the emotional impact of losing our natural environment. The stars are not just points of light, they are a symbol of what it means to be human. Initiatives to mitigate light pollution are a step in the right direction. However, are they enough? Ethics demands that we not only seek solutions, but also promote a cultural change in how we view the sky. Education plays a crucial role. If we teach children to appreciate the night sky, we are planting the seeds for a brighter future. Imagine a world where the night sky is celebrated not just as a visual spectacle, but as a heritage that must be protected and valued. The ethics of science is not just a theoretical framework, but an invitation to action. Every small step counts. From turning off unnecessary lights to advocating for policies that protect the sky, we can all do our part. In conclusion, the ethics of science in relation to the preservation of the night sky leads us to question our priorities and responsibilities. By making conscious decisions today, we can ensure that future generations have the opportunity to look up and marvel at the infinite beauty of the cosmos. Are we willing to accept that challenge? The answer is in our hands. What if I told you that the sky we love and admire is in danger? Light pollution, a phenomenon that has grown with the advancement of technology, is stealing the stars their place in the firmament. But what can be done about it? In this section, we will explore initiatives and solutions aimed at mitigating this issue, thus preserving the beauty of the night sky for future generations. First, it is essential to understand that light pollution not only affects our ability to observe the stars, but it also has repercussions on wildlife and ecosystems. Imagine an owl that, instead of hunting under the moonlight, gets confused by the lights of a bright city. By becoming disoriented, its life cycle is altered, affecting its reproduction and its role in the ecosystem. In this sense, how can we help nature and the sky remain in harmony? One of the most effective solutions is the implementation of smarter and more efficient lighting technologies. For example, dimmable LED streetlights can be programmed to emit less light during hours when they are not needed. Just like the volume of music at a party, light can be adjusted to create the perfect atmosphere. Can you imagine a world where cities shine with just the right intensity, allowing the stars to continue shining in the darkness? Moreover, education plays a crucial role in preserving the night sky. If we teach new generations about the importance of stars and the effects of light pollution, they are likely to become passionate advocates for a cleaner sky. Who wouldn't be excited to learn that they can be guardians of a treasure as valuable as the starry sky? Communities can also get involved in creating dark nights where street lights are turned off and outdoor activities are encouraged to observe the sky. It's like organizing a dinner under the stars, where the table is filled with friends and family, and the sky takes center stage. Wouldn't it be wonderful to enjoy the company of our loved ones under a blanket of stars? Another effective strategy is the creation of protected areas for sky observation. These zones, away from city lights, can be refuges for astronomers and sky lovers. Can you imagine a place where you can lie on the grass and lose yourself in the vastness of the cosmos, surrounded by silence and peace? Supporting policies that regulate excessive lighting is equally important. If every city adopted a more conscious approach to its lighting, we could significantly reduce light pollution. Think of it as a social agreement, where we all commit to being more responsible with our use of light, similar to how we recycle or reduce plastic use. Businesses also play a fundamental role in this fight. By designing products that respect the environment and promote more sustainable lighting, they can contribute to the preservation of the sky. Wouldn't it be amazing if the brands we love joined this cause, helping us reconnect with the stars that have inspired us since time immemorial? Technology can be our ally in this battle. Applications that help users find the best places to observe the sky, as well as interactive star maps, can motivate people to go out and enjoy the beauty of the firmament, as if it were a game every time we go out to stargaze. We become explorers of the cosmos. International collaboration is also vital. The stars know no borders, and light pollution is a global problem. By joining forces between countries, we can create a movement that transcends borders, and together protect the sky we share. Can you imagine a day when all countries commit to reducing their light footprint? Finally, we must remember that every small gesture counts, from turning off unnecessary lights at home to choosing a dark place to camp. Every action adds up, like drops of water that when combined form a river. Our individual decisions can create significant change. Are you ready to be part of this transformation? Preserving the night sky is a task that requires effort and commitment, but the benefits are invaluable. Imagine a future where the stars continue to illuminate our nights, guiding dreamers and explorers, and reminding us of the greatness of the universe. Through education, technology, and collaboration, we can ensure that future generations can also look up and marvel at the stellar spectacle. So what actions are you willing to take to protect that wonderful blanket of light that has inspired us for millennia? Have you ever thought about how many wonders of the universe depend on our ability to observe the sky? Astronomy is not just a fascinating subject, it is a window into the unknown and a fundamental tool for understanding our place in the cosmos. However, for this wonder to endure, it is essential that new generations immerse themselves in the study of the sky and the science surrounding it. How can we achieve this? What strategies can we implement to spark interest in astronomy? Education about the sky is not just about teaching about planets, stars, and galaxies. It is a journey that begins with curiosity. Imagine a child looking up on a clear night, amazed by the infinite number of stars. That spark of wonder can be the first step toward a passion for science. But how can we nurture that curiosity? One effective way is through hands-on experiences, visits to observatories, planetariums, or even stargazing sessions at night can ignite that flame of interest. Digital resources also play a crucial role in astronomical education. With the advancement of technology, students today can access apps that simulate the night sky, where they can identify constellations and planets by simply pointing their phone at the sky. Isn't that amazing? These tools make science interactive and accessible, transforming the way young people relate to the cosmos. But are they really taking advantage of all these educational opportunities? Schools have a fundamental role in promoting astronomy. Integrating astronomical topics into the school curriculum can inspire students from an early age. Science classes can go beyond textbooks and offer research projects about space. What if students build their own telescopes or create models of solar systems? These activities not only teach scientific concepts but also foster practical skills and teamwork. Collaboration between educational institutions and scientific organizations is also key. Projects like Astronomy Day or Observation Nights can unite entire communities. By organizing events where astronomy experts share their knowledge, a collective learning environment is created that can be very motivating. Imagine a group of teenagers fascinated by an astronomer talking to them about black holes and exoplanets. That connection with an expert can change the course of their lives. Including astronomy in extracurricular activities such as science clubs can also be an excellent way to foster interest. These clubs can provide a space where students feel free to explore their curiosity without the pressure of school exams. Through projects, talks, and field trips, young people can discover the joy of learning about the universe. What skills can they acquire by participating in these clubs? From critical thinking to creativity, the possibilities are endless. We must not forget the importance of storytelling in education. Astronomy is full of captivating tales about how ancient navigators guided themselves by the stars or how the mythologies of different cultures interpreted the sky. Incorporating narratives can make learning more engaging and memorable. Who wouldn't be intrigued by the story of how the constellations we see today were formed? Social media can also be powerful allies in promoting astronomy. Who hasn't seen a viral video about space? Young people spend hours on digital platforms, and if we use these tools to share educational content about the sky, we could reach a massive audience. Creating visual and engaging content can spark the interest of many more young people in the field of science. Science and technology fairs are another excellent opportunity for students to showcase their astronomical projects. By presenting their research and discoveries, they not only learn but also inspire others. Who knows? Perhaps a project on astrobiology at a school fair could lead a student to become an astrophysicist in the future. Motivation can arise in the least expected places. Connecting with nature is also essential. Taking students on outdoor excursions away from light pollution can be a transformative experience. Observing the starry sky without distractions can make them feel part of something much larger. How can these experiences impact their perception of the world and their interest in science? The answer is simple. It allows them to understand the vastness of the universe in a visceral way. As we move toward a future where technology continues to evolve, it is crucial that we do not lose sight of the importance of astronomy education. The challenges of the future, such as the search for life on other planets or understanding cosmic phenomena, will require bright and curious minds. How can we ensure that we are preparing the next generation for these challenges? The answer lies in the ongoing commitment to educate and excite young people about the universe. Finally, by fostering a culture of scientific curiosity, we are also building a brighter future. The stars have always been a source of inspiration. If we manage to instill that passion for the sky in new generations, perhaps one day we will see those young people become the scientists and explorers who will unveil the mysteries of the cosmos. Education in astronomy is not just a matter of knowledge. It is an investment in the future of humanity. Are you ready to be part of this exciting journey? What would happen if, in a distant future, the civilizations inhabiting our planet looked up at the sky and found nothing but a vast black canvas? The idea of a world without stars may seem like a science fiction narrative, but reflecting on this raises intriguing questions about how humanity would adapt to such a drastic reality. Imagine that the stars, those tiny lights that have guided navigators and inspired poets, no longer shine. Humans have depended on their light for millennia, but if they disappeared tomorrow, how would our way of life and our technologies change? Without that starry mantle, navigation would become much more complicated. Compasses and maps would still exist, but the poetry of the sky as a guide would fade away. Would civilizations continue to rely on modern technology like global positioning systems, or would they be forced to reinvent ancient methods of orientation? Furthermore, how would this affect our connection to the cosmos? Throughout history, looking at the stars has been a way to contemplate our place in the universe. Without that reflection, would we also lose the curiosity that has driven us to explore beyond our home? Perhaps future civilizations would develop new philosophies seeking to understand their existence without the celestial guidance once offered by the constellations. The absence of stars could inspire a different form of spirituality, where the emptiness of the sky becomes a symbol of introspection and self-knowledge. Emerging technologies would also play a crucial role in this new world. Without the shine of the stars, we might see a surge in research for new methods of energy and communication. Imagine a world where the search for new energy sources intensifies, perhaps driving innovation in nuclear fusion or solar energy in ways we never would have imagined. Future civilizations might even create stellar simulations, projecting images of stars in their skies to keep the connection with the cosmos alive. On the other hand, culture would also be profoundly affected. The stories and legends that have survived through generations, inspired by the stars and their constellations, would have to adapt. Without those celestial myths, literature and art might seek new sources of inspiration. Perhaps artists would begin to explore themes related to darkness, emptiness, and how to find beauty in the unknown. Could this give rise to a new artistic movement? Education would also need to transform. Without stars to observe, how would we teach astronomy to future generations? Perhaps new disciplines would develop that combine science with philosophy, seeking to understand the universe through the eyes of humanity itself. Classrooms could fill with debates about existence and consciousness, instead of focusing solely on celestial mechanics. Future civilizations might also find innovative ways to communicate and collaborate. Without stars lighting the sky, humanity could unite in a collective effort to seek answers in the darkness. The lack of a starry sky could foster a greater connection among people, uniting cultures in a shared desire to explore and discover what lies beyond their world. However, not everything would be optimistic. The absence of stars could provoke a sense of loss. Humans are intrinsically connected to the cosmos, and their disappearance could create an emotional void that civilizations would have to confront. How would they overcome this collective sadness? Perhaps they would develop rituals or festivals that celebrate the darkness, seeking comfort and hope in the unity of their community. Science itself could also change. Without the observation of stars, future astronomers would have to rethink their theories about the universe. Research on galaxy formation and the expansion of the cosmos might become more philosophical than scientific. Instead of observing the sky, they could explore the nature of existence and perception. Would they become philosophers of space, seeking answers to questions that were once resolved through direct observation? Undoubtedly, technology would continue to advance, but perhaps in unexpected directions. The search for a new home on other planets could intensify, driven by the need to find a place where stars still shine. Spaceships might be seen as lifeboats, and the desire to colonize other worlds could become a top priority for humanity. Thus, future civilizations adapting to a world without stars might learn to seek the light that still resides within them. The absence of a starry sky could lead to a renaissance of human creativity, where each individual becomes their own source of light. In this sense, darkness might not be the end, but a new beginning. The story of humanity has been woven with the light of the stars, but the real question is, how will that story be rewritten in a world where the sky is dark? The answer to that question may be as surprising and beautiful as the constellations we once admired. And so, as we delve into this reflection, a vast horizon of possibilities opens up, reminding us that even in the deepest darkness, there is always room for creativity and hope. The stars have been a fundamental part of our lives since time immemorial. If we stop to think, what would it really mean to live in a world without them? The absence of light in the night sky would not only change our landscape, but also our very essence as human beings. As we reflect on this scenario, it is essential to ask ourselves, what role do the stars play in our collective identity and in our connection to the universe? The stars have been beacons for humanity. Since ancient times, our ancestors looked up for guidance, inspiration, and answers. However, how would our history be without those bright points that have accompanied us for millennia? The loss of the stars could mean a radical change in our cultural narrative. The mythologies that revolve around them, the stories they tell us about heroes and gods would fade away. What would happen to our legends and traditions without the stellar glow that adorns them? The night sky has been a refuge of dreams and hopes, a reminder that there is something greater than ourselves. Without it, where would we find comfort in the vastness of the cosmos? The contemplation of the sky has inspired poets, artists, and scientists throughout history. Without the stars, what would our creativity look like? Would we still seek the depths of the universe, or would we get lost in the darkness of our own existence? The stars have also served as compasses for navigators. Without them, the art of navigation would be drastically transformed. Imagine a world where ships cannot orient themselves by constellations, where maritime exploration routes are compromised. This lack of guidance could limit us, not only physically, but also in our desire to discover new lands and cultures. Would we lose our innate curiosity? In a world without stars, science would also be affected. Astronomy as we know it would be profoundly altered. What would happen to our understanding of the universe and the place we occupy in it? Without starry skies, many scientific theories might never have seen the light. The search for answers about our origin and destiny would be truncated. Could we still dream of exploring other worlds if we cannot see the one around us? The emotional connection we have with the night sky transcends science. The stars have given us a sense of belonging, a reminder that we are part of something greater. Without their presence, our psyche could fragment and the sense of community could be compromised. How would we find comfort in the solitude of the universe if we do not have those lights reminding us that we are not alone? The ethics of our relationship with the cosmos also come into play. What responsibility do we have to preserve the night sky for future generations? Reflecting on the importance of the stars is not only a philosophical exercise, but also a call to action. If we understand what we could lose, perhaps we would be motivated to take steps to protect what remains. In this context, education plays a crucial role. How can we teach new generations about the wonder of the universe if the sky is empty? The transmission of astronomical knowledge is essential to foster awe and curiosity in young people. The story of the stars is ultimately the story of humanity, Shouldn't we ensure that this connection endures? As we contemplate a future without stars, it is essential to imagine how future civilizations might adapt. Would they develop new technologies to fill that void, or would they resign themselves to a dark existence? Innovation often arises from necessity. A world without stars could give rise to creative and unexpected solutions. However, would that be enough to fill the innate yearning for connection with the cosmos? The future of astronomy is also at stake. How would our understanding of space evolve if we had no sky to observe? Astronomy is, at its core, the search for answers to eternal questions. The disappearance of the stars could make those questions harder to formulate. Would we lose our drive to explore the unknown? The psychology of the sky should not be underestimated. The beauty and peace that the stars provide have a direct impact on our emotional well-being. Without them, we might experience a void that leads us to a collective identity crisis. How would we face the unease of a darkened sky? The connection we feel when observing the stars is a reflection of our own humanity. In the face of a dark sky, the need to act arises. Proposals to mitigate light pollution and preserve the night sky are crucial. What measures can we take to ensure that our descendants can enjoy the wonder of the universe? The preservation of the starry sky is a legacy we must consider seriously. As we close this analysis of a future without stars, let us remember that the stars are not just celestial bodies. They are symbols of hope, dreams, and the pursuit of knowledge. The absence of these lights would leave an indelible mark on humanity. Are we willing to let that happen? The decision is in our hands. At the end of the day, the light of the stars not only illuminates the sky, but also our lives. What will we do to ensure that this light never goes out?